John Martinez here with the 21-day REI Sales Challenge, and a fun topic today that really can be applied to any sales or marketing. I want to take a quick look at the 6 pillars of influence and talk about how you can use them in your sales process and marketing messages. So the 6 pillars of influence: social proof, commitment, reciprocation, liking, authority, and scarcity. These 6 things can really motivate people to take action, really influence them to think or do specific things. So you need to understand how each one of these works so you can figure out how to use it in your messaging or your sales process. So let's take a look at each quickly, individually, and that'll be all. So the first is principle number 1, reciprocation. All this really means is when we give somebody something, they feel obligated to give something back. So think about your own life. Think about where this comes into play. Have you ever been invited to a kid's birthday party? So if you have children and your child's invited to someone's party, don't you feel an obligation to invite that child to your son or daughter's birthday party? Or if you get a Christmas card, don't you feel an obligation to send that Christmas card back? You know, there's actually an interesting study where a professor who was studying influence mailed a ton of random Christmas cards to perfect strangers. And the funny thing was, he got a huge number of Christmas cards back, even though these people had no idea who he was. Now, there's all kinds of studies and all kinds of fun ways you can use this, but you just have to understand, if you want someone to take action, the best way to influence them to take that action is to first give them something. When you give them something, whether that's information, whether that's a secret, whether that's a free report, anything like that, they're going to feel obligated to give something back. So when you are looking for one of your prospects to do something or take some type of action and you're not getting the results you'd like, try giving them something first. Next, let's move on to principle number 2, social proof. Now, we all know how this works, right? It's when everybody's doing it, right? Well, everyone else is doing it, so it must be the right thing to do. Tons of studies here too. One of my favorites is where they had 7 or 8 participants in a certain study, and they sat them around a table, and everyone around the table was in on the study except for the variable in the experiment. The last person sitting around the table was not in the study. They're the people who we were really studying. And what scientists were doing is testing social proof as far as influence goes. And the way this test went, the way that this study went, is they would pass around 2 pictures of objects around the table, starting with the first person and ending up with the person who was not in on the study, right? Who's not in on the joke or in on the secret. And on the 2 pictures, there were 2 objects, and one object was always very obviously bigger than the rest. And as they passed these 2 objects around the table, the scientists doing the study would ask the question, which object is bigger? And the first 7 or so people that were in on it would always say that the smaller object was bigger, even though it was obvious that there was one bigger and one smaller object. And the funny thing is oftentimes when it got to that last person, even though they knew which was bigger and which was smaller, they said the same as the 7 people preceding them. They just figured, hey, if these 7 people say that this object was bigger than this, they must be right. Who am I to say that they're wrong? Now, we see this all over the place. Think about toothpaste commercials, right? Hey, 9 out of 10 dentists recommend this toothpaste. Why do commercials do that? Well, that's social proof again. You see, if 9 out of 10 dentists recommend it, doesn't it mean it's good by default? So use social proof in your sales and marketing messages. Use in email strings and autoresponders. You're going to want to use some type of testimonials. Put testimonials on your website. If you've done a lot of deals, tell people you're the largest, the biggest. You've done so many deals. Just by saying everyone else uses us, so many other people trust us, that by default will make new prospects think, hey, those people can't be right. This company must know what they're doing. They must be a good company to do business with. Let's move on to the next. Principle number 3, commitment and consistency. When we take actions over and over again, when we say, hey, we like this brand or we're this type of person, we have an innate need and drive to be consistent with who we say we are. Now that doesn't just mean our deeply held personal beliefs. This means if we say something out loud, if we've committed to take a certain action, then we are more likely to follow through on that action. So one study I like to refer to is a study that happened right before a presidential election. And what happened was there were two groups of people. And one group of people, scientists would go and say, hey, are you going to vote tomorrow? And the people, all of them actually said, yeah, I'm going to vote tomorrow. And there was another group of people who they didn't ask whether or not they were going to vote tomorrow. So the next day, they rounded up both groups of people. And what they found is the ones who committed to voting that next day, twice as many actually voted than those who weren't asked. So what this told the scientists, what this told us is just because, whether they were planning to or not, just because they said they would, twice the amount of people actually took action. We feel this deep desire to be true to what we've committed to, right? So how do we use this in sales and marketing, in our messaging? Well, we want to get our prospects to start making commitments, small commitments, so they live up to those commitments. Hey, you'd be willing to, make sure, you check with me one more time before you made a final decision, right? Right. Those little things, right? Hey, you're the type of person that I know sticks to your word, right? Right. Those little things will influence your prospects to stick with those minor commitments. We want to be consistent with the commitments we make. So there's tons of ways we can use that. What else? Principle number 4, liking. This is simple. We prefer to say yes to people we like. You don't have to go too far to see this in everyday life, right? If we've got the option to help out one of 3 groups, we're probably going to help out the one group that we like the most, right? This applies to physical attractiveness. If people are similar to you, dress the same, if people give you compliments, you like them more. There's all kinds of ways we like people. Most commonly, it's just people that we have things in common with, right? We think, hey, they think like we do. They must be good guys like we are. So that's it. If you want people to opt to do business with you instead of others, you have to get them to like you more. This isn't the end all, the be all end all, but this is just another way we influence people. People who like us are more likely to do what we ask them to do. Let's move on to the next principle of influence, and that is authority. Why is it that we listen to police officers, firemen, scientists, or professors or politicians? Well, people in authority positions by default usually know better than we do. Ever since we were kids, we listened to people of authority. We listened to our parents and our teachers. Why? Because they usually knew things we didn't. And we learned early on that if we listen to people in authority, usually in the long run, it works out better for us. So it's ingrained into us from a very early age. So if you want people to listen to you, you have to project some type of authority. You can do this by writing reports, white papers, doing videos, writing a book, anything that makes you an authority on a subject. So in this training, the subject of buying houses for cash or buying distressed properties or anything like that, you want to be seen as an authority to have higher influence over your prospects. Now, our 6th and final principle is scarcity. The less available something is, the more we want it, right? This was originally brought to our attention in the sales world with boy-girl theory in the 50s. And this is, we all know this, right? When you're going, girls play hard to get or guys play hard to get, right? When they do, it makes them more desirable. This is the same with gold, silver, diamonds, precious metals. It's in everyday life. When things are less available, they become more attractive or more expensive, right? So you see limited time only sales and things like that. So if you want to make something more attractive to your prospect, you have to limit its availability. So ask yourself this question: what action do you want your prospects to take? Is it an initial phone call? Is it a meeting? Is it sending you some information? Whatever it is, right? Whatever they want from you, you've got to make that availability limited to make it more attractive and encourage or influence your prospects to take action. So think about what your prospects want, put some limited availability on it, and they will be more likely to take action. Now, if you can use 2, 3, 4, 5, or all 6 of these principles of influence together, you can almost get anyone to do anything you'd like them to do. So use these principles, these pillars of influence responsibly. My name is John Martinez. This is your REI Sales Challenge.